What's up, everybody? This is John Stocki for the Stocki Exchange. This episode, we talked to Grand Traverse Resort and their videographer about how they created their latest Get Up and Go campaign. Get up and go. We talk about how they created emotional connection with their listeners, how they used social media to leverage that campaign, and we're giving away some free golf. Welcome to this episode of the Stocki Exchange. Today I'm here with John, Paul, and Eric from Practical Production Company and from Grand Traverse Resort. Today we're going to be talking about emotional marketing, talking about their latest Get Up and Go advertising campaign, and how they've taken emotion in marketing and used it as the centerpiece of their advertising campaign rather than the traditional, here's a picture of your hotel room, here's a picture of the lobby, here's the picture of a restaurant. They really try to capture the concept of creating an emotion and an experience in video form to get people excited about their experience here in Northern Michigan and at the resort, and how does that translate into video format, and that's what John Paul has been able to very successfully have them do. So we're going to play a 30-second version of that clip now, and then just kind of talk a little bit about what it took to create that video, and then we're going to go more in depth into emotional marketing and how they plan to use the campaign farther from now on. So, John Paul, how many hours of content did it take to actually create this, the 30-second bit?
Well, over I think about 10 days of shooting, we got about 7 hours of extremely high-resolution footage that we then have to edit down into 30-second spots that usually have about 15 shots in them. Which is intense because, more often we'll be filming 15 shots in 5 minutes. So
for all of you out there who don't know how video production happens, it's a very, very time-consuming process to get a 30-second commercial. It's, I think a good ratio is for every 1 minute of content that you actually get down, 1 hour of shooting is a pretty good ratio.
Completely depends on what you're doing. I mean, you've got the people who spend a month on 30 seconds.
Yeah, and it depends on what you're shooting and how, if you're shooting things that aren't moving, it's obviously great, but if you're shooting things that you have to get that perfect second, sometimes you got to do it 300-400 times before it happens. So I take a lot of patience for people who work for like National Geographic who are filming in the woods for 4 months at a time to get a bird to do one little thing. Those people, I tell you, I don't have the patience for that at all.
Yeah, we don't do that.
So, Eric, tell me what kind of sparked the Get Up and Go campaign, and why did you guys really choose to do something, let's say, industry-wide, non-traditional from, this is how we advertise hotels, this is how we advertise. What made you guys choose, let's be the leader and kind of do something different?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just looking at it from a consumer perspective. So I'm sitting there on my couch, like what would speak to me? And we drew inspiration from a number of places, GoPro for one, just kind of showing like energy, showing an experience, and a few other places. And then obviously with John Paul's input, he was really the maestro in figuring everything out. But just I don't know, with television, you are an uninvited guest into somebody's living room. So what are you going to do to speak to them?
Exactly. One of the biggest things people are focusing on now is don't interrupt people's experience. And that's with anything. It's how massive Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're all figuring out how to make advertising which doesn't interrupt my experience and just makes it part of the flow. So it's not making people angry.
Right.
So I think what you said is, a lot of companies are finally realizing to look at their advertising from the guest perspective and consumer perspective of how do I want to feel, how do I want to receive information, rather than we have this, yay, look at it. Yeah, it's awesome. No.
As loudly as we possibly
can. Exactly, and
yeah.
that's not how the world works, and that's not how
Right.
mainly your target market is consuming media these days.
And our attention spans are so low, and I mean,
Painfully
every single
short.
day there's, you your iPhone, your iPad, when I'm sitting there watching TV, I have my iPad next to me and I'm looking up something. So like your attention span, something really compelling has to be on screen for you to really pay attention to it. So.
I mean, video is the #1 most consumed media now via social media. I mean, it surpassed photos. So I think motion graphics and things like 8-second videos on Snapchat and Instagram
Vine.
videos and Vine, those pieces of micro content are fantastic.
So video has surpassed photo now. I didn't know that. That's great for me.
It's fantastic for your job stability.
This is great news. Yeah.
So micro content and video is most consumed via social media now,
Right.
which is awesome.
Yeah.
And that brings its own challenges too, because part of what you're saying about being compelling is that if there's that much content out there, if we are surpassing photo, which
How do you stay apart?
if that's true, fact check that. But that means there's a ton of it, which means if you're putting something out there, its ability to compete
becomes that much harder.
It becomes crazy difficult. There's thousands of people trying to do the exact same thing that you're doing. So you either need to do the exact same thing way better, or you need to do something different, but not so different that it's confusing to people. That's the trick.
Exactly. So what, other than the campaign, how are you guys able to, I guess, talk your bosses into the ROI capture of this rather than doing the traditional, this is what we do, the room rates start at $179, go to our website and book today?
Well, that was a difficult process, I will tell you. But I have great support from my bosses at the resort and spa. But I think they realize as well that their attention spans are short as well. And if you want to drill into details as far as what's the rate, how do you set up like a golf tee time, all that stuff's on our website. So it's just capturing someone's attention enough that they'll go to your site and check it out for themselves, because in 30 seconds you're not going to be able to say every single thing that we offer. You just need to be compelling enough to, when someone's at a purchasing decision, when they want to do something, they think of you and their top 2 to 3 choices.
Yeah,
So.
create that story in their head. How are you going to use social media to help drive that campaign when guests are checking into the hotel, or take Get Up and Go as a hashtag, or what is it that you guys are going to do to really use your social media platforms to expand on a stagnant piece of content, not stagnant, but like a fixed piece of content? Yeah. How are you going to move that into more of a campaign? How do you use social media to make it an actual campaign?
We just finished the campaign this past just a couple months ago, so we haven't done anything yet, but the plan eventually, probably next spring, summer, is to bring Get Up and Go to our guests and have some sort of interactive contest where it's Get Up and Go wine tasting on Old Mission Peninsula, Get Up and Go Golf the Bear, one of our premier courses. Some sort of interactive contest to get people out and about doing things, because we don't just want people to sit in their rooms all day.
Let's call it Get Up and Go. So
exactly.
You guys watch the ad. It's all about the activity and the movement and the opportunities of things to go do instead of sitting in the hotel room.
Exactly.
It's like what you guys are offering is the experience of Northern Michigan. So getting people to go do that.
And we encourage that. We see ourselves as the launch pad to Northern Michigan.
Yeah.
So stay here. There's a number of things to do there at the resort and spa, but get out and explore. Okay. We encourage that.
Yeah, that's great. So John Paul, on the concept of the emotional side and capturing, creating, a feeling and an emotion on following the commercial. If we can play it again, that'd be great while John Paul talks. We talked, you see the people getting up and the family and the packing, and that's all part of that process. But then you see the happiness of them participating in activities. What did it take to kind of create those shots, and why did you pick this one over that one?
Yeah, the biggest thing with appealing to somebody's emotions is that it has to be able to be something that they can recognize. That is something they can relate to, something that hits that, like, yeah, no, I know what that feels like. and being able to know what something feels like when you see it, that's when you recognize it as like, am I doing that tomorrow? Do I want to do that tomorrow? Like, do I want to go sail on the tall ship? Do I want to go golfing? And sort of the counterintuitive part of that is that when you show people a perfect day, it almost doesn't strike any chords because that's not really a real thing. And I feel like that's where the biggest difference between what you might call emotional marketing and good marketing is that we show the flaws, but we try to make sure that they're the right flaws. So we're starting off with.
I love the bit where the kids are like getting up and
the
you're
chaos.
like, exactly the chaos.
Yeah.
Everyone knows like that's real life. That happens. It's not just like you don't wake up and all of a sudden everyone's perfectly dressed at breakfast and everyone's perfectly dressed at golf, and so you're showing like this is what it takes to get things going. But they're also had a great time, and you had a range of different people could go out, like you said, they could go golfing, or they could go just on the ship, or they have a really nice dinner. So I think that was perfectly encapsulates like it's not perfect, but here's the possibility.
It's authentic, though.
Right?
It's real, it's genuine. This is what it's actually like.
Exactly.
It's not all cookie cutter, exactly perfect. This is what vacation is like.
I mean, I've gone on 100 hikes. The one I remember the best is where we got absolutely rained out. So like hiding under a tree, and it's like not doing anything good for us. And that's what ends up in the commercial. Is like these little moments where it's like, is this what you'd expect to see in a commercial that's advertising a beautiful landscape? It's like, probably not. But at the same time, it taps into something where you go like, one, that's not what I expect, so it's got my attention. And two, what I'm not expecting that I'm seeing, I can actually relate to it in a way that really engages with it.
I think that's huge. I mean, the ability to relate with creating a commercial is you have to try to relate to mass media because that's where it's getting distributed. You're not only showing this to 4 friends, your hiking buddies. The point is to try to relate to as many people as possible to create some kind of connection that they'll remember and go, oh yeah, well that looked like a great time. But you also don't want it to look so glossy and recorded that you're like, well, yeah, of course he went golfing while his super hot ex-model wife went to this. You can't make it too awesome, or you instantly, like you said, it becomes an advertisement interruption rather than we want to try to connect with you and show you that we're authentic and this is what the possibilities are able to do.
Right. And that was a perfect example with the rain. I mean, that was John Paul's idea. I mean, right away, that was one of his ideas, was to have rain. And from our perspective, we don't love rain. I mean, it's not something our guests love to see, but it's like it's a confident. It's reality, and it's a confident.
It is Michigan too.
It's a confident part of the piece where this does happen on occasion, and we were willing to show it, and not to mention all the, the background work that it took you with graphics and everything to actually get rain to show up on camera, because that's a whole different deal. But I think that was an important part of keeping it authentic.
Okay. John Paul, what was the kind of the most challenging part of trying to capture this footage? What was the hardest thing that you had to do to the scene that was like, really, really struggling?
Probably the 2 hardest things was trying to communicate a sense of energy, drawing a lot of inspiration from GoPro. I thought a lot of things we've been talking about where it moves fast, you're right in the action, is very human. And trying to do that with a camera that's not going to look like a disaster, that's going to look way beyond what you'd be able to do with an iPhone or a sports camera. So we are running, jumping, sailing with a camera that's on rails, on my shoulder, this big. So trying to put that amount of energy into something that is really generally a slow-moving, pretty scientific, process. Filming's very difficult, it's very slow. So to be able to hit the record button and then suddenly be running down a dune and have that be okay without tripping.
Visible.
Or down a dock, chasing kids down a dock.
Yeah, a dock that's this wide in order to run you have to hold the camera off to one side. So it's almost like balancing myself out, leaning left over the water while the camera's hanging right over the water. Just all those types of things are just a lot of little challenges that when you're thinking of the idea come to your head and almost stop you from thinking that you can pull it off. But if you can just conquer one scene at a time, and believe that that's possible, you can come together with something that looks like what we did. It's a really high level, huge production camera that's putting out beautiful images, but is also moving in a way that feels extremely human. You know, there's not a single shot in the whole piece where it's on a tripod, because that's not the way that life works. You know, we're not selling the stagnant, still experience. You know?
And I think that's insane. So all of you go back and watch it again. We'll put the link to all their videos here. And just try to imagine someone's actually physically holding that camera the whole time steady. It's connected to something. It's not just one guy just going, oh, I got it. Like, there's a lot of work and effort and time and planning and people involved. That's why there's movie credits after the end of every movie, and they go on for 10 minutes, because the amount of people and time that are involved in every kind of production is really, really fantastic and just kind of mind-boggling at the same time, the amount of professionals involved in putting together pieces like this. On a bigger picture scale, what for both of you is kind of actually great that we have kind of two different businesses here. One as a videographer and one as, you know, a casino, hotel, resort. What is kind of the next biggest marketing plan, or like the biggest kind of opportunity you see on the horizon to be able to market your product? So you obviously creating, you know, these masterpieces of video, and you selling experiences as a hospitality provider.
Fortunately for John Paul, it's visual. I mean, it's showing it, you know, giving the audience credit and just showing the experience as opposed to talking down to people. I know that's not a real specific thing, but I think just photography, video, just showing something rather than talking down to people. One example that we're looking into right now, our sales team, our corporate sales team, who sets up meetings, conventions. We're looking at Periscope right now, which is social media. How would you describe Periscope? It's basically kind of live streaming yourself.
Yeah, live streaming yourself.
And so if they're talking to a meeting planner or a owner of a business and they're looking to have a convention at the resort or the casinos, we can walk around and answer real time while showing exactly what's going on. That's one example, but I think it's just, I mean, to keep it broad, I think just showing the experience, especially with our industry.
Yeah, love it. John Paul?
Could you rephrase the question for me?
What's the next kind of, for example, for social media use, vertical videos coming back into use rather than horizontal, because people are consuming media straight up. How do you think that might, do you think you might have to create pieces of content shot vertically rather than a widescreen version because of consumption? People are consuming media that way, so you can't only put it out. I mean, that's the great latest and greatest. People want it. If they're using it, whatever the consumer wants, you give it to them. So how do you think that might affect, and what kind of challenges do you think, say, vertical video might bring to you rather than shooting it in landscape?
You know, in marketing, everything just comes down to association. So no matter how fast things change, especially with film, what you want almost as a starting point for everything is to make sure that it looks professional. And we've spent our whole lives watching movies that are not, you know, portrait, they're landscape. You know, we're watching them. We used to spend more money on DVDs that were in widescreen. You know, so of an image that is wide or portrait is immediately going to look more professional for no other reason other than that, just right off the bat. It's a little bit unfair. You know, so as things change, there's always going to be the association, the relating aspect of marketing where we're always going to be lagging behind. And yet there's the exciting side of these things, these changes that are coming, you know, the bigger cameras, the slower slow motion, being able to advertise to people on their phones where you're working with a screen that's a different shape. These are all opportunities to go, let's break one rule at a time. Let's maybe break a couple rules at a time. You know, it's all about knowing what to change and what to stay the same. You know, because it's all about a balance. You got to make sure that you're relating. You got to make sure that you're associating the right thing to the right people, and at the same time doing something that's different enough to where you are still being creative. You know, just as a professional who needs to stay inspired, but also doing that in a way where you can sell it. You can say, this idea that I have, this could catch people's attention. You know, this could be interesting. And
But not so far gone that you lose everyone.
right. I don't think it's about following the trends of saying that, like, well, my phone is vertical, so, you know, we need to turn the camera sideways so we can shoot that way. You know, I don't think it's just about following the rules and trying to stay on top of the trend, but almost trying to take advantage of them. You know, it's like, okay, this is happening, and we don't have to do anything. You know, it's like we're
Go rogue.
yeah, we can do anything we want, as long as we're getting the job done, as long as at the end of the day, whatever it is that we're selling, whether it's Northern Michigan or whether it's, you know, something specific like a new TV, as long as we're selling the product, we just get to play the game of saying, what's the best, most fun, most interesting, most compelling way to sell that, you know, way to make this. You know, hopefully you're actually selling something to people that they actually want to buy, you know, not ramming something down their throats. But,
Exactly. Subtlety is the key. So now we're going to move on to one question answers. So I have a question for either of you. So what is your favorite golf course at the resort?
Wolverine.
Wolverine. And it's kind of relative, it's not kind of relative, but Canon or Nikon?
ooh, Canon or Nikon what?
DSLR.
I shoot on a Canon DSLR with Nikon glass.
This guy.
That's more than one word.
Picks everything.
Nikon. No, I say Nikon because I'm switching to red cameras now. And I'm still shooting a Nikon glass.
Okay.
Nikon.
Perfect. So this part of the show is the Stocki Exchange, where you guys can ask me any questions that you have. We're going to try to keep one question from either of you, and I'll give you a succinct answer, I hope.
What brought you back to Northern Michigan?
Yeah, so some of you may not know, I've traveled for over 5.5 years between the Middle East, China, and Australia, and then moved back to the U.S. About 3 years ago. And I wanted to be closer to family and friends. I'd been overseas. Well, I've been away from my family since I left for college at 18, and then I came back 10 years later after traveling all over the world and getting to see a lot of cool stuff. And time to, get a little closer to family and friends. Sick of living in a hotel room, literally living in a hotel room, and living on the 8th floor, working on the 7th floor. It's taxing at times working for hotels 24 hours a day. So wanted to get back and hunting and fishing and living outdoors and then having a little better work-life balance. So moving back home allowed me to do that, and that's been the biggest reason.
Cool.
With the world of marketing being so web-centric and the web being so heavily used on mobile devices, how have you seen that change the whole way that websites operate and web traffic operates to try and meet these new applications?
It's massive. Number one recommendation for all my clients is, if you're not thinking mobile first, you're not thinking right. Like, every application has to be mobile first. Instagram doesn't exist on desktop. Twitter desktop users is really, really minimal. Mobile traffic on Google is better. There's more searches via mobile than there is via desktop. And you can definitely see trends of desktop versus mobile use during the day. Desktop's more used. As soon as 5 o'clock hits, no one's pretty much on a desktop computer anymore. So definitely places that, just walking down the street here, you see everyone is on their phone looking on Yelp. They're looking on TripAdvisor. They just ask Siri something about the best Chinese restaurant next to them. So mobile first and a mobile-centric approach to all of your marketing needs to be on point. I don't want to say that desktop is less important, but with the ability to control where your message goes, with Facebook specifically, you can design ads which are only seen on Facebook mobile. They're not seen on the desktop. On the desktop, you can create, say, a landscape video advertised on the desktop because that's what's going to pull up on people's screens. On the mobile version, you could design only a vertical video so people see it instantly when they're in their news feed and they don't have to turn their phone. So making it easier, like you guys said, understanding how the consumer wants to receive things, give it to them that way. And I think with mobile, that's how people are receiving information, either out of just sheer necessity because everyone has a mobile phone. Now, out of sheer like ability, because people have their cell phone with them every 24 hours a day. I think over 9 out of 10 of adults have their cell phone within arm's reach 24 hours a day. If you're not capitalizing on the ability to communicate with every single person within an arm's reach 24 hours a day, you should be aiming for that. Now, I understand not everyone has the ability to do that with unlimited budgets and the best planning and everything, but if you're not catching up, I mean, Google is even starting to hurt your website if you're not mobile friendly. You're going to get lower search rankings if you're not mobile friendly. So you have to be thinking mobile first, and then desktop, and then tablet if you have enough time to do something specifically for tablet. But if you at least have a responsive web site that works on desktop and mobile and resizes for tablet as well, you're going to be better. So I think that's the way to go with it.
Right, and it's interesting to me because I'm of the demographic that's the new old man, where I work off my computer and I work a ton, because I'm a
entrepreneur.
Yes. So, you see all these young kids on their phones running around that are of my generation. And, I'm the one who's still looking at stats. It's like, I view everything on my laptop. I view everything on my work machine, It's like when I'm done with my day, I'm done with the screen. I want to get up and go swim or something that doesn't involve plugging into a wall.
Puns all day.
All day, all night. Yeah, so that's actually something that's legitimately interesting to me, because it's not something I can fully understand firsthand.
And it's really, really difficult to continue to generalize like generation. The millennials or generation. Even millennials gap a 20-year period. The beginning part and the end part of that, one lived their entire life with internet and another one didn't. Those two differences right there are just even so hard to say all millennials do this. So I think understanding niche markets and understanding how they consume media and designing it for that is definitely the best way to go.
Absolutely. You've got to understand your market.
Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I hope you guys at home learned a little bit about how they've used John Paul's video skills and the ideas of why we're connecting with people and how we're connecting with people, and how it's not slapping it in your face anymore and hope you can consume it. It's put something out there that has a want. People want to see it and they oh, that looks interesting, and then subtly show them this is what the product is for. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
What we're gonna do. This show, we're giving away some golf today from Grand Traverse Resort. So go right now, pick up your phone or your tablet right now. You got it. Type in StockiExchange.com/blog. Follow the blog post for this episode. We're going to have all the show notes. We're going to have all these guys' links to their social media accounts, to their websites, to their. You can check out John Paul's work. You guys can check out the Get Out and Go campaign. There's a behind-the-scenes blog of the photo shoot that's on John Paul's website as well. You guys can check that out and see what really goes into actually creating that 30-second clip that you guys all saw. So go to the website, check out that blog, and enter to win a round of golf at the Bear at Grand Traverse Resort. Other than that, we will see you guys next week, same time, same place, for the next episode of the Stocki Exchange.